I was gonna film this sitting in the chair, but Mary just looks so freaking cozy right now. I did not have the heart to wake her up and move her just so I could sit in the chair. So I'm gonna be sitting on the floor. We have 2 cats here now. I have been knitting a sweater for my mom, and I have also recently been getting a bunch of comments on if I have any tips, advice, or a process that I use for knitting for other people. And yes, I do. I have been using the same process for knitting people's sweaters for the past 3 years. The first thing I do is pick a timeline. If I'm doing something as big as a sweater, I like to give myself a lot of time. In fact, I give myself a year for making a sweater for somebody because that gives me plenty of time to work on the design with them and figure out what exactly we're doing. And then it also gives me plenty of time to actually motivate myself to knit the sweater. So I can set it aside for a few months, pick it back up, come back to it. And that way I don't feel like I need to rush through it, which I think makes a higher quality piece at the end of the day. The first decision to really make is whether or not you want to tell the person that you're knitting them something, or if you want to keep it a surprise, because that really determines what the rest of the process looks like. I personally like having the recipient involved in the process. I like when we're designing a sweater together, sort of like a collaboration, and then I get to bring them into my world. I also like knowing that the person will like the end result on some level because they made a lot of the choices leading up to it. A common, not necessarily a mistake, but it's a difference in preference. I think some well-meaning grandparents out there have knit a sweater for their grandchild, thinking that their grandkid will love it, only for them to open it up and be a little bit disappointed. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I was really into pink, like really into pink. And then in school, it wasn't cool anymore to be like into pink. You had to be a tomboy, and that was what was cool. So then I made a quick like switch of like, I don't like pink anymore. But none of my relatives got the memo. It's not like I made a big announcement to everyone in my life that I don't like pink anymore. So for the next 10 years, everything I got as a gift was pink, and I like actively was against pink at this time. So it was a lot of like, thank you. And obviously I wasn't a jerk as a kid, but if the person you are making something for loves surprises, and if you love surprises, then obviously like don't tell them and have it be a surprise, because maybe you're a better gift giver than me. I'm a terrible gift giver. I do not know what people want, and so I have to ask them what they want. A benefit of giving it to someone as a surprise is you have a little bit more flexibility in your deadline, unless of course you're making someone for like someone that just had a baby, or like as a wedding gift, like maybe there's a little bit of a timeline in there. But other than that, like you have some more flexibility, and they don't know. So if you decide that you don't want to do it anymore, you can just do that, and there's no love lost because they didn't know. So I think telling them avoids pressure in the result, but it adds pressure to the process. And I think not telling them takes away that pressure from the process, but adds that pressure back with the result. So it's just kind of like, where do you want your pressure? Pick a pattern. If you are telling the person, select several patterns that are within your skill level, potentially even patterns that you've done before, and let them pick from a selection. I would avoid overwhelming someone, especially if they're not involved in the fiber arts community. I would avoid just like saying, here's Ravelry, here's Pinterest, pick out whatever you want and I'll make it work, because that can be so overwhelming, I think, to someone that's not used to looking through hundreds of images of sweaters. I think my sweet spot has been finding 3 to 8 options, sending it over in a batch. I'll screenshot the pictures of the pattern, send it over to the person. I say, hey, do you like any of these? Which one's your favorite? Or if you don't like any of these, I will send you another batch. If you were keeping it a secret from the person, I would just keep an eye on their style for a while. If they're on social media, maybe go through their Facebook or like Instagram profiles and see if there are any like through lines in their sense of style. Like for the past 8 years, they consistently wear this color palette, or they always wear sweaters like this. Maybe it's someone that likes to wear oversized, boxy gray hoodies all the time. Well, you could knit them a boxy, oversized gray hoodie knowing that they would love it, because they probably don't have a knit hoodie, but you know that they like that form factor. Maybe they're really into like the store-bought crochet tops, and you can crochet them a top. When picking a pattern, I would obviously consider climate, knowing is it going to be a summer knit or a winter knit? And that also really depends on who you're giving it to, because I know a lot of people that would never wear knits in the summer, like winter knit exclusive. Another tip is to pick a pattern that you want to make, something that you were excited to work on. An example is my husband had wanted a knit sweater, and I found one that I thought he might like, and I showed it to him, and he was like, yeah, I would totally love this. And it was the halibut sweater by Caitlin Hunter. What I actually did was I knit a version for myself first because I was so nervous about, it's like his first knit sweater ever. He's never owned a knit sweater, not even a store-bought one. And so I knit it for myself. And that way I was like sure on the process and the gauge, and then I went to make his, and it was so much easier, and I think it really reduced the risk of making mistakes. And now we have matching sweaters, which is super cute. The sweater I'm making for my mom, all the patterns that I sent her are patterns that I would totally knit for myself, and looking at the sweater, I'm like, maybe I should knit one of these for myself too. And whether you're telling the person or not, I highly recommend doing a pattern that is top down. It's just so much easier to test fit as you're going, and it's just a lot more forgiving to making adjustments. Deciding on measurements. This is the key reason why I tell people that I am knitting for them, so that I can get the measurements right. If you're telling the person, what I like to do is tell them to measure a sweater, and it doesn't have to be a knit sweater. It can be like a crew neck sweatshirt, something in their wardrobe that they like the fit of, and I'll have them measure that, and I send them this template so that they know exactly what measurements to input, and make it clear that you want them to measure the sweater and not their own body. I also try to keep it simple, again, not to overwhelm people, so all I want is the main width dimension of the body. And then for sleeves, because every pattern is a little bit different for where you're starting the sleeves, so I don't have them measure their arm. Instead, I have them measure from the exact center of their chest out to where they want the cuff to be, because I think that measurement is a lot easier to keep an eye on. And then obviously body length, which I have them measure from the highest point in the sweater down to the lowest point. If you are keeping this gift a secret, my advice would be good luck. Some options would be finding someone that you know that is similar in size to the person you're going to knit a sweater for, who's like chill and okay with you putting sweaters on them, knowing that they're not going to get a sweater. You could steal or borrow this person's clothing and use that as a measurement. You could bribe someone they live with to give you an article of clothing of theirs, and you could use that for measurements. You could go shopping with them and keep an eye on the things that they pick out, looking for style, color, and sizes. Another option is lie. Lie right to their face. It's okay if it's for a good cause. I'm pretty sure that's in the Constitution. Here are some freebie lies that you can use yourself. I'm taking a poll on average clothing sizes for a college class I'm taking. What size tops do you wear? You will have to enroll into a university with a statistics program for this, but it's worth it. I'm taking a whole bunch of stuff to Goodwill next week. Do you have a bag of clothing that I can donate for you? But here's the thing. You don't donate the bag. You take it, you dig through it, and you find if they have any tops or sweaters in there. This one's risky though, because it's stuff that they're giving away. But on the plus side, you can get some free stuff. Help, all my sweaters fell into a wood chipper and I committed to a sweater contest. Quick, do you have a sweater I could borrow? I'm being given the Presidential Medal of Freedom and I need a sweater to go with my dress. Do you have one I can borrow? For this one, you will have to come up with a way to make a significant contribution to the prosperity of the United States, which is why I like to give myself a year in the timeline. Pick a yarn. I like to do this after the measurement portion just so I know exactly how much yarn I need to buy, and then always buy extra. If you are telling the person, give them options. Better yet, if you have access to them to meet in person, maybe bring them over to your place and show them some yarns in your collection that you would recommend for this pattern, stuff that you've knit with in the past. Maybe go to a yarn shop with them and explain what yarns would work for this project. If you are keeping it a secret from them and not telling them that you're knitting them a sweater, I would play it safe personally with the yarn. Use yarns that you've used before. Things to for sure consider would be allergies. Do they have a wool allergy? And unless they specifically already have this in their wardrobe, I would just steer clear of mohair. So many people have sensitivities to mohair. Like, it's just not worth it. I would consider upkeep, just how much effort are they willing to put into this piece, and that plays into if you want to get something that can be only hand washed or if you want to get something that can go into a washer. I would consider lifestyle, so what kinds of things are they going to be doing in this sweater? Is it someone that hikes a lot in the mountains and you want to make them like a warm wool sweater to hike in? Something that can be washed really easily, maybe something that has a lot of lanolin in it. And then obviously consider their location. Do they live in Florida where they are literally never going to wear a wool sweater, or do they live in Finland? That's definitely going to play into what yarn you're picking for this person. A kind of subcategory within picking a yarn is picking out color. If you're telling them, obviously just show them the options for that yarn and let them pick whatever color they want. If you're doing like a color work sweater for this person, then maybe inform them like, yeah, you're going to want to go high contrast. Like if they pick 2 colors that are kind of similar in tone, and you can kind of steer them that way. And if you're not telling them, just pay attention to what they wear. What are consistent colors in their wardrobe? I think a lot of people really want to make something super special, and so their instinct is to make something a little bit out of the comfort zone of the person that they're knitting for. Do whatever you want, but I personally think it's a better option to play it safe, because I'd rather give someone something that they could wear a lot that's not as exciting as like a neon orange sweater. But if I know that they like light gray and they wear it all the time, well, then they're probably gonna like the lighter gray sweater. And because of that, not only will they ideally like it more, but it will fit into their wardrobe better and play with their existing pieces. Consider personal touches. So maybe you want to embroider their initials or your initials or a little heart or something. I made mittens for some family members of mine, and I happen to have some leather stamping tools around. So I leather stamped all their names into tags and then punched 2 holes in it and sewed it in. So it was like a leather tag with their name on it. It was cute. I know that you can buy tags, like the tags that come in a store on your clothing. If you're going to buy one of those, there's some really funny ones out there and some really cute ones, and you can even personalize them. So I think it's a really cute touch, but I would caution you, a lot of people do not like the feeling of tags on their clothing. So if you're going to put one on, I would recommend not putting it in the back of the sweater, like on the back neck, but instead putting it maybe in the body, and then sewing around all the edges of the tag and not just one edge with like 3 raw edges, and that way it's less likely to cause any sort of sensitivity issue. Once you have all that other stuff figured out, the only thing left is to actually work on the project. So this is a huge case where I think knitting a big swatch is going to be important. My biggest source of anxiety when I'm knitting for other people is the fit. I just get so nervous about, is it going to fit them well? Are they actually going to like it? So if you are telling them and you have access to this person in person and you're knitting it top down, obviously highly recommend doing fit checks in person as you're going along, especially when you're going to split for sleeves, because that's when you can make certain adjustments. If you are not telling the person or you don't have access to them in person, then just make sure that you're keeping true to the measurements that you took earlier. If you know someone or you are similar in size to them, trying it on as you go and just keeping an eye on how it fits on you. Blocking is a tough one, and I don't have an answer for you on this. I think I'm pretty 50-50. If I'm confident that the sizing is good, if the person has tried it on and we know how we want it blocked, then I will block it for them, especially like for that first wash. If I'm not entirely sure or haven't been able to have the person try it on, like my mom's sweater, for example, she lives in Minnesota, I live in Oregon, like I can't just go there and have her consistently trying it on to see how it fits. So I'm debating not blocking it and sending it over to her and then having her block it if maybe the sleeves are a little bit too short or she wants it longer and not as wide. Like those are things that she can adjust through blocking. So I'm pretty 50-50 on whether or not I would block the piece for the first time before giving it to the person. Things to consider after you are done making the piece. I like to add aftercare instructions, especially for certain people. If I'm like, yeah, I know you've never hand washed anything in your life, so you just wouldn't know how to do it. Here are the instructions. You can buy little bottles of wool wash, like just that would be a cute little add-on to the gift if it's a hand wash only sweater. The yarn I used, I like to keep at least one label and send that along with them because usually that'll have wash instructions on there, and it's fun for them to see like what fiber content is in there. And then for some people, I have made them like a little card with actual like care instructions, and I provide like high maintenance care instructions versus low maintenance care instructions. So what is like the bare minimum that you should do to take care of this sweater and make it last, and then like what would be extra and like gold stars for making it last forever. Because not everyone is going to want to take care of their knits the same way that you do, which plays into the next point, which is understanding and being okay with no strings attached gift giving. This is a lesson taken from my grandmother. I think that she was very good about this when she was giving me gifts, at least. She would always say when she gave me like a pair of earrings or anything, she'd be like, if you hate it, you can throw it away, set it on fire. I don't care. This is yours now, so you can do whatever you want with it. Every time that I give a hand knit as a gift, I understand that someday it'll be in a donation bin or in the trash. Ideally, it would be like handed to someone else, like they would pass it on. But, you know, I have no control over that. And I think if you're giving a gift thinking that the recipient owes you anything, you shouldn't be giving the gift. Like, if you're going to get mad if they're not hand washing it properly, don't give them the gift. Like, it's a human being. Things accidentally get caught in the washer or the dryer. Like, things happen. And not everybody, like, values knits the same way that you might. So just, I don't know, maybe consider if you are emotionally prepared to spend hours upon hours hand knitting someone a sweater and giving it to them. Like, are you emotionally prepared for them maybe not taking care of it or not liking it or giving it away right away? And a note to anybody, if I've ever knit you anything, you can give that away at any point in time. You do not need to hold on to that. Like, my nightmare would be someone holding on to something that I made for them, being like, oh, I can't give this away. I would feel too bad. Give it away. Give it away today. And the last thing that I want people to know if I make them something is to enjoy your knit. And I think this applies to everybody, not just those receiving hand knits as gifts. I firmly believe in the philosophy of like burn the candle. So like a lot of people will have like a nice candle in their home that they just don't want to burn, but then you never get to enjoy that candle. So like just burn the candle. You don't have to wait for a special occasion, just burn the candle. I think the same thing applies to hand knit sweaters. Some people would be horrified with how I treat my sweaters. Like, if I made a quilt for somebody, I would want that quilt to be loved. I don't care if you have the dog sleeping on it. I would take that as a major compliment. It's to be worn and loved and get holes in it and get stained, get dirty, get ripped. So wear the sweater, get it dirty, get holes in it. Ideally, love it. Unless you don't love it, then don't love it. That is everything I could think of regarding my thought process when I go to make sweaters for other people. Mary loves this quilted duvet cover so much. If you haven't seen this video, you gotta watch this video. But she sleeps on this every single day. I just love that my cats are the biggest supporters of my handmade objects. Your ear's looking better. It's a family cuddle time. Thanks for watching.